Hans Andersen made 20,000 on his first wholesale deal and as big of a deal as 80,000. You won't want to miss this one. Thank you guys for tuning in and welcome to the Deal Machine podcast. Welcome to the Deal Machine podcast. We got Hans Andersen. It's good to be with you today. Hans, could you give us an overview of your business? Like, how long have you been in business? What types of real estate do you do? What type of volume have you been able to achieve?
Yeah, so I started in 2019. I started at the end of 2019. I actually was in my car, homeless at the time, and
Really?
I seen videos of Jerry Norton online. I was working at the airport on the side. I was working at two warehouses, part time on each, and at the same time, I kind of got kicked out of my family's house, and my mom was, really sick at the time. So I kind of had to become this character that can hopefully like prove my family right to go help them out. So uh, end of 2019 going into 2020, I had actually found, how to wholesale. I started with Zillow for sale by owner, started, doing a lot of calls. I didn't really know anything. I just took the risk. And that's why I'd say like, it's bad that happened. It's bad the situation I was in, but I was able to not be scared to take the risk. So I just started calling people, making offers. I had someone on the side that was kind of helping me make offers and give the right offers. Thank God he was a good wholesaler and didn't steal my deals because I was giving him every address. So after I started, really 4 months into, calling every single day, 1,000 sellers plus every single day, I finally ran into someone who was desperate enough to take a point 0.6 offer, and they were listed for sale by owner in California. Ended up locking the deal down. It was a $40,000-$50,000 deal, but the guy who was wholesaling and helping me actually was also a buyer. So he took the assignment at 20,000, and he knew me. He knew I didn't know the numbers, so he got the easy deal, made a ton of money. I had my first check and I was like, okay, should I start building a team? Should I go to my family and say, I made some money? So I got an apartment, started living in my apartment, had $15,000 or so left over. And I started actually hiring my friends to cold call with me. And I just kind of gave them a little script I made that really didn't work. So for the next 6 months, I didn't get a single deal. So then I came across Kong Wholesale, I believe, and I seen him outside of a property. He was driving for dollars, and he said he made 25,000. I'm like, okay, so I'm going for Zillow for sale by owner. It's obviously competitive because every person I talk to, oh, I spoke to someone like you, they lowballed me. So I started driving for dollars. I didn't know about DealMachine or anything. So I just was writing down, the addresses and putting sticky notes on their doors, going home, going on True People Search, like Kong Wholesale said. And I started getting in touch with sellers, except it was different from Zillow for sale by owner. These people actually haven't been spoke to, like never. They're like, no one's ever asked me if I want to sell my house on 5th Street that is abandoned and there's squatters. So I was instantly getting better touches. I didn't get a deal for 31 appointments. So I went on 31 appointments, didn't get a single deal. I was in 2021, I believe, like in the end of 2021. And at this point, like obviously my rent's catching up. I only have $6,000. So I was getting down to my, where I'm not going to be able to pay rent. So I honestly quit. Like I quit for 3 more months. We're headed into 2022. And I was like, dang, like I don't have anything to show for, and I'm about to be homeless again. So I also had a We Buy Houses shirt, and I was walking around Walmart. I don't know what made me wear it this day, but I wore the shirt and I was walking around Walmart, and these two ladies came up to me. One was a daughter. One was she was like 60 years old, and the daughter had a house. The mom told me about it and said, you really need to, she was telling her, she was like coercing her through to the sale. She was like, you really need to sell it. it says he buys houses. You can trust him. And I was kind of like, yeah, I do this all the time. I do this for a living. We're quick. I was saying, we pay closing costs and fees. They don't even know what that is. Like, so the daughter ended up having me on appointment. This was like the most nerve-wracking appointment because she basically already decided she was going to go with me. So I was like, dang, I have to perform. I did this on market. And at this point, the dude that was helping me, he was no longer helping me. So I had to figure it out all myself. And I was scared. I didn't have a contract. I didn't know what I was doing. So I went on appointment. The lady had a husband that was in there. And he was like instantly from the start, like, no, that he's a young kid. Look at him, like he can't buy her house. She's like screaming at him. She kicked him out. We ended up sitting at the table. And at this point, I had to figure out how to get a contract. So I'm like going in my car. I'm like, let me talk to my team. I went to the UPS, printed out a contract that I downloaded online, filled out my part and like looked like a third grader did it, brought it back to her and said, look what you've been approved for. We got the house approved for, I think it was 215,000, and houses were selling on market for, 340 plus. So I was like already knowing it was a good deal. I just shot her low because I knew she wanted to get away from her husband. So she didn't even read the contract. I could have put $0. She just instantly signed the highlighted, where I highlighted the signature, instantly was signing. And at that moment, I went to my car and I was like, okay, what's next? And I was doing my research online, YouTube University, did the same thing, looked online, figured out how to find a buyer. I went to one Facebook group and I posted the deal and just a picture of the outside. I didn't post, I just said, I have this property under contract at 215. And I actually posted the address on Facebook. So someone hit me up and they instantly were like, take that down. I'll buy it right now for X amount of dollars. And I think at this point it was a $63,000 deal.
Wow.
So I instantly took it off Facebook, assigned it to him. He closed in a single day. It was crazy. I literally got a check in 2 days because I had to process. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm finally saved. I felt like the biggest big shot ever. So I instantly took that money. I tried to take out all of it in cash. I don't know why. I just wanted to see it was real. They only let me get 20,000 from the bank. I took it to my family and I went inside and I was like, look what I did. We made it. We never have to work again. You're going to retire. With 60,000, I just thought I was just the biggest guy ever. So right after that, I was like, okay, I have to make this into a repeat. I have to repeat a business and scale it. So I instantly was talking to my friends and I'm like, hey, I made $60,000. And at the time, one of my friends was an Uber driver. Another one was working at McDonald's and he was trying to be an actor. The other one was wanting to build a trucking business. So I had started paying them on commission. The Uber driver was making double what he was making. And instead of me adding 200 plus properties a day, because it took my whole day, I was drained. I couldn't go on enough seller appointments. I couldn't call the leads quick enough. So they started adding 200 per day. And I had two people bringing me 200 leads per day. Like I spent all my days calling and then I was consistently going on appointments. It was so different from, on market or even cold calling leads. It was so different. And I also hired a VA on the side. So I was dabbling in other spaces. I didn't know PPL or PPC was a thing at the time. So I was just having my cold caller bring me leads, having my guys bring, 200 or so leads around the different areas I couldn't, carry. And I'm in Washington area. So I'm in Tacoma. I was only able to get my neighborhood and I drove all the areas already. And I was also taking care of my mom still, my family. So I couldn't hit Lakewood, Puyallup, Seattle. So they were gathering all those areas and I was consistently calling sellers and going on appointments. And it was kind of getting discouraging again because I wasn't closing the deal right away. And I had got this big check and got so lucky. Mm-hmm. So 3 or so months down the line of doing that, I'm like, dang, like, does this really work? I started questioning myself again. And I was like, nope, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep hammering it. And I went on an appointment with someone that literally is up the street from where I live. And he had a squatter in his house. I didn't know what to do. Once again, looked online, ended up getting in contact with another wholesaler because I was just asking questions in groups like, what do I do when a squatter this? What do I do when a squatter this? And he had told me he'll buy the property and he'll take care of the squatter. So he had ended up buying it, and I could have made a lot more. Again, didn't know the numbers, didn't study enough. And I ended up just taking a $30,000 fee flat and assigned the deal to him. He ended up assigning it to another buyer. Didn't even know that was a thing at the time. And the buyer got the deal, still got paid. And now at this point, like, I'm knowing, it's working. So then I hired 2 more people that were Uber drivers. And I actually found one that delivered me. It was not an Uber, a DoorDash driver this time. So he was door dashing. He was my age. So I was like, hey, what's your goal? What's your goal with, the door dashing? He's like, oh, I got a kid at home. I'm really just doing this full time because I lost my job a couple months ago. And then I had offered him the same thing. And he's like, no brainer. All I got to do is, write down addresses I see that are vacant. And he started doing it. So then I had 200 extra. And at this point, this is the point I got to where I could actually know, like, I'm getting instant results. I'm going on a bunch of appointments, but it kind of got overwhelming. So that's when I found, DealMachine. I think it was 2023. That's when I found DealMachine. And I also was cold calling. I had closed a couple 15, 10,000, 20,000. Like, I was getting repeat business. I had my friend, he lives in Ohio. We're just in the Discord. He's calling leads. We're just closing deals, splitting the profits. And we found DealMachine. And I was like, what the heck is this? Like, you don't have to skip trace it. You could just collect the dots and just call the seller. I'm like, what? This is insane. So I had them all start the free trial for 14 days. And within the 14 days, we were getting, it was so much more appointments than I was, because I didn't have to call family members. I didn't have to, go through this hoop, put a sticky note. So I stopped sticky notes completely. I was just direct to seller, adding a list. I have a list of 400 people, me and my guy. And then I actually was training my actor friend to call as well. So we have 3 people calling. We're getting multiple appointments. At this point, I was the only one who was capable of going on an appointment. They were kind of scared because I'm the only one who wanted to do this full time. So I was making a bunch of offers in person all throughout the day. And at this point, it was like once every 2 months, I was getting a deal. But the spreads, instead of a $10,000, $20,000, assignment, because the thing is, it's harder when you're talking to people who already been spoke to. You can't lowball them as heavy. So with the people I was going on an appointment with, plus I'm in person, they can trust me more. I was getting $50,000+ deals, especially in a median market of 300 to 600,000. So I started just trying to scale it at this point. And actually, the first ever deal with the lady that had the daughter, she ended up having me go on an appointment. And at this point, like, I had money now, I had the business, so I was more of what she's seen before. So I went all the way to, I think it was Snoqualmie, Washington, somewhere far. The ARVs were millions of dollars. And I had got her property, I think it valued at 1.2 thousand or something like that, or 1.2 million. And I got it for 900,000. And I wholesaled that deal for not 63,000 like her daughter's, for $84,000. And that was the big assignment that I had. So with the total from her property and the other property, it was almost $50,000 from that relationship I got from Walmart. So, like, thinking back, like, imagine if I would have just stopped completely, after that deal, didn't try to make it into a business because I was at the point where I wasn't getting consistent results. It was once every 3-4 months I was getting a deal from driving for dollars. So if I didn't build it into, the system I had, I would have just been, asked out, and I wouldn't have had any profit or any deals.
What was the second property she had? The first one, I know that you met her at Walmart, and then she signed the contract, and her husband and her weren't getting along. So you're saying they had a second property the whole time as well?
Yes. So the lady, and she actually had mentioned it, that if that goes well, she may have another property, but she said in the next few years.
Mhm.
So I guess she was looking to move to Florida. Her mom, because she was pretty old. So I was like, if you're 70, your mom must be like 90, 100. So she was saying her mom actually was sick, about to die, basically. She had just got out the hospital. So she urgently needed to go to, be with her mom. So she was already with her mom for 3-4 months. Then she reached out to me and said, my house is vacant. It's really big. My husband already died. I'm tired of going up the stairs. So I was like, okay, let me know how to get into your house. I'll walk the property with my team, even though it was just me and a friend. And I'll tell you what I can pay for it. But you should know I'll be lower than if you list it. She's like, no, I trust you. So I kept telling my family, I kept telling them this guy, he, sold, I think it was Caroline or Coraline, something like that. He sold her house. I trust him only. And she said for months, even before she left, they were like, just call him, just call him, just call him, just call him. She finally called me. I ended up going through a bottom window because her house was locked. She was telling me, okay, maybe another time, maybe another time. I'm like, no, I got the door open, even though I went through the window. So I got through the window, walked the property. I also knew someone that was in Washington. He was a realtor. He was like a really big realtor. And I knew that he would either buy it or he would have someone who buys it, since he's always working the high end Washington areas. So I texted him, I sent him the details. He instantly comes over there, like 45-minute drive. He brings someone with him. And I'm like scared because I just was nervous. Like, even though I had the credibility, I feel like I always still, for, the next really 2 years of wholesaling, I just was nervous still when these transactions would happen, because I know like I could either make money or not make money. So they walked the property, 2 weeks later, which was crazy because she was like telling me, hey, what's going on? Hey, this, hey, that. They had sent me the assignment. It was $84,000. I ended up taking it. Of course, I probably could have made more. And I just assigned it to them. They ended up doing a huge remodel, making a farm with the acres. Like, I just knew in my head, I was like, they got me. It's okay though. It's okay though. They still, I still got a lot of profit. So I gave them that deal. And, now I still even check up on them till this day. I'm always like, hey, do you have another family member that would sell me a house? And I'm just like joking around. Sadly, her mom passed away, but I still keep in contact, with her till this day.
Have you found a lot of the sellers had like a certain motivation? Like, I know she said she trusted you, but was there some other reason why she wanted to sell on a short time frame and
Yeah.
make sure that the deal went through and that it didn't take longer or didn't fall through?
Yeah, so she actually wanted to move to Florida. So after her mom died, I don't know why, but she wanted to move to Florida and live there. And like I said, she said the house was huge. Like, she was so tired of walking up the stairs. She was like almost 80 at this point. So like, she had hip surgery, she had this going on. So I guess she had some family in Florida as well that'll eventually take care of her. So her plan was take the money, you know, build a life there. And she also had one of her sons that was still alive to live with her in the house. So he'll eventually take care of her. So, she just wanted a lot of cash up front. She was tired of, thinking about her husband and him passing away in the house and right next to her. So she just really wanted to get out of there.
Totally. Okay. And so how many deals has you, like, I know you hired the Uber drivers. Are they still part of your team now? First of all.
So I I have this at a lower scale. So I only have 4 guys right now. 2 of them are closing, 2 of them are adding properties because I actually moved more towards PPL and PPC. So like, the reason I did that is because I can target those same markets, but it's like instant. Like I don't have to drive, I don't have to, pay anyone. It's just like I pay for the lead, close the deal, and I actually had used a lot of my profit to like hire coaches. Jeremy Miner, he uh, coaches my team, every week, and like, I'm just starting to try to scale my business. And actually, this year we're probably on track to do 2.2 around there million in assignment fees alone. But my biggest year driving for dollars was around 400,000 when I was doing it. So I went from my first year doing 3 deals, making 145,000 to the next 2 years making 400. Well, no, it was 250 and then 400, and then the next year after that, that's when I like literally like I found PPC, PPL. I have a team of 7. I got them the training they needed. We also have connections with call centers where I technically own 330 callers at this point. Most of them work for iSpeed to Lead. So it's crazy how that works.
Hmm.
I was buying leads from iSpeed to Lead, and then, the call center I went to the Philippines and acquired is now servicing them. And then the other percentage of the leads go to, an insurance company that sells insurance at a large scale. And then the rest of those callers I have for teams I work with and other wholesale teams that I personally train with 2 of my closers that are around 20-25% close rate. We train them to scale their business past, $100,000 per month.
With cold
And
calling?
yeah, with cold calling.
Got it.
And then we eventually, after the first month, we eventually implement, PPC. We know someone who runs campaigns really well. We target their markets. And then I even sometimes close their deals. Like 2 days ago, this is just way out of the ordinary. I posted that I run a lot of novations because that's also what I added. I have a huge novation team. We run like 10 to 15 a month. I had posted, hey, if anyone has a hard lead, I'll close it via novation. You'll get 50%. The first 2 hours, someone sent me a lead and it was set up so perfectly. We hopped on a 3-way with the seller and I closed it. And now we got the POA. We have the realtor going to list the property, and we'll probably make $60,000-$80,000 from that. So now I'm to the point where wholesaling is kind of like a little bit easy now. So like I'm trying to figure out how to go from 2.5 million to the 5, 6, 10 tens of millions. Like Nick Perry and some of the guys out here that are doing it. So that's kind of my next steps.
I know that you live in the Tacoma, Washington area, but that first, seller that you called that wanted to sell was in California. Is there a reason why you've decided, kind of from the get go, to go virtually instead of just focusing on your local area?
Yeah, so I actually, when I very first started making calls, it I looked at for sale by owner, but I actually was calling agents on market for really like 2 months out of the 6 that I didn't get a single deal. And I just was trying to get learn the conversation. So I was looking at Jerry Norton, what he does, and I was kind of mimicking it because I wanted to have that buyer feel. You don't want to sound like a wholesaler. You want to sound like you are the buyer. You want to know you are the buyer. And then after 50 conversations a day for 3 months, like I felt like I was a pro. Like if you talk to a seller compared to an agent will beat you up. So they were beating me up left and right. I was learning different things to say every single time. So I feel like if I didn't do that, I would have never ran into the seller and had the confidence to close her on, whatever deal. Because people don't sell with people unless they like and trust you. So you get the likability from knowing what questions to ask. That's what I got from the realtors. You get them to trust you from how you're taking them through the process to then get them to make a decision they already know they need to know deep down. So calling the realtors actually helped me. But the reason I went virtual was because I just seen it online. I was like, you know, I could go in my backyard, but that's more work. So I just seen it online, found out about Zillow for sale by owner, called the sellers, and ended up finally getting a deal. But the reason I started driving for dollars in my local market is because I'm like, I could do this and get a deal every couple months, or I could just drive for dollars and stop being scared. Like I could just stop being scared. I already don't have anything, you know, like some half of the appointments, well, all of the appointments, I was driving in a 2001 Lexus. So like I had to be a big buyer. I parked in alleys. I didn't even show them my car. That sometimes they'll ask me, "Oh, how'd you get here?" I'm like,
You're
"Oh,
saying
I had
because
to."
you thought your car was too nice, or you thought your car wasn't nice
I
enough?
thought it wasn't nice enough. So I wanted that perception of like, you know, I can help you with this house, because these people would have way nicer houses, especially in the Washington. They had, you know, a guy had a Corvette in his yard one time, and I'm like, he's like, "How did you get here?" I'm like, "Oh, my car's over there. You know, I just parked it over there because I was looking at another property and I was on another appointment. I just made up something really quick." And, you know, went on that appointment, and I was wearing suits at this time because I wanted them to trust me, because they're not going to sell with me unless they trust me. So I went in my backyard because I knew I had to get over the fear. And also what happened after several appointments, especially saying no, saying no, saying no, and then getting a deal. Once I had got the money, I was like, I felt great because I built the character from those reps and from getting uncomfortable to now then be this person. So then on, instead of, you know, once every couple months I was getting a deal, I started getting them more consistently, bigger spreads. My negotiation was, you know, fluid and easy. I'll go to an appointment and instantly be able to present them an offer. Sometimes they won't sign up, you know, right then and there. I'd take it off the table. I'd go home, you know, next couple appointments, I'd take them out for coffee. Or, you know, one time I even showed up to someone's house when they said they can read it over themselves. And I said, oh, I thought you said you wanted to read it over with me. And I was like, okay, let's just do this real fast. All you have to do is let me know any questions. And in the end, it's your decision. And then, you know, ended up getting them to sell. So it's just a lot easier in person. But now, you know, to the point I'm at, I could pretty much call a cold call lead and close it. You know, I just have a lot more confidence. I have the training. I've been, you know, talking to sellers for 5 years at this point. But back in the day, you know, I definitely wish I would have started driving for dollars.
I got you.
The free.
Hey, I have to ask, do you use the DealMachine phone numbers for your cold calling?
I don't. Oh, you're saying the data.
Yeah.
The data, yes. So I have 2 call centers at this point that manage the 330, and then I have 70 virtual callers. So the 70 virtual callers, that's more of a third party. So I kind of just, you know, pay them, and then I, you know, sell their seats out. But with my cold callers, we just download DealMachine bulk data. We take out the do not calls, and they're just calling. Like we generate anywhere from 50 to 100,000 sellers every single month. And they're just consistently hitting their quotas. I have 7 managers that manage all of them. And we just have a neat operation. I also have a team in the back of 3 operators, like they're in the Discord right now. They just basically manage everything for me, so then I can just close deals.
Yeah, that was a big move for us in the last like probably year and a half, was to provide the phone numbers. And you do get like on the Pro Plus plan, you get like 60,000 downloads a month. So people thought that the price was too low, it can't be good, but it was actually better than what people were paying for separately for skip tracing. And
exactly.
Especially if they use the filter to only export the likely owners and not the renters and not the family members, the contact rate is exceptional.
And those are the exact filters I use. So I use absentee owner, vacant homes, and I just keep it broad. Like, I don't want to do equity this percentage. You want to get as many vacant or absentee owners as possible. And then I exclude the people who are likely not to be the owner. And then I just dial.
Yeah.
You know, and at this point, my team does that.
Well, and the niche lists are great when you're starting, because those are leads that, you know, big operators aren't necessarily targeting. But eventually the niche list is only so big, right? And so if you're scaled to your point where you've got two groups of callers just for your own deals, you do have to go more broad. And that's when the, just absentee owner list may come into play. Just to scale, you have to have more data. You have to have more people to call.
You have to.
Awesome. Well, what are some of your goals now? I know you said you're doing maybe 2 million a year and you wanted to get up to 5. Is that what I heard?
I want to get up to 5. So with the call center connections alone, we will do that, but I'm saying like wholesale. If I add like right now, this is the good thing about having a lot of capital is I'm lending on people's projects. I'm lending on EMD. I'm investing in the game servers at a larger at a larger scale now. So we're able to probably next year we'll probably get close to 7-8 million just in capital that we have right now. And then obviously you have to pay taxes and things like that. But for the wholesale, I think what my thing is building the JVs out. Like I have a lot of people bringing me JVs and I have a lot of guys that are, we're consistently closing their novations. Building that out, I think is my next step to get from, 2-3 million to the 5+ while my team's doing what they do. Cause I feel like we're kind of capped out. We'd have to either spend a crap ton of money, which I'm not trying to do, or hire more guys. But then if you hire more guys, that's more management. And then it's just the same thing. So I feel like I'm capped out around that number. So building out the JVs is definitely my next, biggest thing for sure.
Well, it definitely has been a scalable model for many large wholesalers in the country. And it's also a need. There's the world is always producing new people that want freedom through real estate, and wholesaling is how they start, and they don't always know where to sell their deal, right? So it solves a problem, and it's also a great scalable model. So that's really cool.
Yeah, especially with novations. Novations, a lot of people are scared of them. I was scared to get into novations. I actually just got in really like a year and a half ago. I started doing novations and I just knew I had to do it. And I just needed like that second guy because I didn't want to manage too much. I got the call center, I got my team, I got the managers there, I got this, the spend a month, the taxes. So I didn't want to do too much. So I found the next best guy. His name's Bain. He runs a crap ton of novations for me. He finds the agent, he cleans the property. I'll give him some of my capital to clean them up and the EMD and things like that. And we're running the ball. So now we're just looking for more people to send us their dead leads or whatever, set us up. We close them 50% and scale it from there.
Where can people reach out to you? Where can they send a lead?
Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. So Facebook is the best way to connect with me. I'm definitely going to be heavy on YouTube, especially my first video would probably be driving for dollars, using the app, showing you guys how I do it, going on an appointment and like showing you what it really takes. Cause I'll even put 100 sticky notes down a day at one time and get appointments really easy. So I just know a little more tactics and, I can get really strategic with it. But Facebook's the best way to get in contact with me for sure.
Perfect. Hans Andersen on Facebook. Thank you so much. This was the easiest podcast ever. You've got a great ability to tell stories, and I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your past since 2019 up until now, which is very inspiring.
Thank you so much, David. It is a pleasure to be on here. I've been watching you guys for a while, so it is a pleasure.
Thanks, man. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.